Welcome to QuickSpeak, the English podcast that helps you learn English effortlessly. Today, we're going to talk about a feeling that many people experience, emotional burnout. We're going to take a deep dive into what it is, how to recognize it, and some simple steps you can take to manage it.
Burnout is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by prolonged or excessive stress. It's like a car running out of fuel because it's been driven too hard for too long.
So it's more than just feeling tired. What are some signs that someone might be experiencing burnout?
One of the most common signs is a feeling of constant fatigue and low energy. Even after sleeping, someone experiencing burnout might still feel exhausted and drained. They may also start to feel cynical or negative about their work or life in general.
That sounds really difficult to deal with. Are there other signs to watch out for?
Burnout can also lead to reduced productivity and difficulty concentrating. You might find it hard to focus on tasks or make decisions, and your work performance might suffer.
It seems like burnout can affect many areas of someone's life. Is it different from stress?
Stress is a natural response to challenging situations. It can be helpful in small doses, motivating us to take action and overcome obstacles. But when stress becomes chronic and overwhelming, it can lead to burnout.
So stress can actually be a good thing sometimes.
Yes, in moderation. It's how our body prepares us to deal with difficult situations. For example, if you're about to give a presentation, a little bit of stress can help you focus and deliver your best performance. But if you're constantly under pressure and don't have time to relax and recharge, that stress can start to take a toll on your well-being.
That makes sense. So how can we tell if we're just stressed or if we're heading towards burnout?
One key difference is how you feel emotionally. Stress might make you feel anxious or worried, but you still feel engaged with your work and your life. Burnout, on the other hand, leads to feelings of detachment, cynicism, and a lack of accomplishment. It's like you've lost your passion and motivation.
So with stress, you still have energy and hope.
Mm-hmm.
But with burnout, you feel drained and disillusioned.
Exactly. And physically, stress might manifest as headaches, muscle tension, or digestive problems. Burnout, on the other hand, often leads to chronic fatigue, insomnia, and a weakened immune system.
That sounds serious. It's important to catch burnout early on then.
Absolutely. The sooner you recognize the signs and take steps to manage stress, the better you'll be able to prevent burnout from becoming a major problem.
So what are some simple things we can do to manage stress and prevent burnout?
One effective technique is mindfulness. This involves paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It's about becoming aware of your thoughts, feelings, and sensations without getting carried away by them.
How can we practice mindfulness in our daily lives?
There are many simple ways. You could try mindful breathing, where you focus on your breath for a few minutes. You could also try mindful walking, where you pay attention to the sensations of your feet on the ground and the movement of your body.
So mindfulness is about slowing down and becoming more aware of our surroundings and ourselves.
Exactly. And even a few minutes of mindfulness practice each day can make a big difference in reducing stress and improving your overall well-being.
That sounds like something anyone can try. Are there other things we can do to manage stress and prevent burnout?
Another important aspect is taking care of your physical health. This means getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, and exercising regularly.
It sounds like self-care is an important part of managing stress and preventing burnout.
Absolutely. When you take care of yourself physically, you're also taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally. It's about creating a solid foundation for well-being.
This is all great information. What are some things we can do to recover if we are already feeling burnt out?
Recovering from burnout takes time and effort. One of the most important steps is to identify and address the sources of stress in your life. Are there any situations or relationships that are consistently draining your energy?
That makes sense. If we don't deal with the root causes of burnout, it's hard to fully recover.
Exactly. It's also important to prioritize rest and relaxation. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, taking breaks throughout the day, and engaging in activities that help you unwind and de-stress.
It sounds like it's important to be kind to ourselves.
Yeah.
And give ourselves permission to rest and recover.
Absolutely. Burnout is a sign that you've been pushing yourself too hard for too long. It's your body's way of telling you to slow down and take care of yourself.
We've been talking about the signs of burnout and the importance of managing stress. Now, let's explore some practical strategies for preventing burnout before it takes hold. What are some things we can do to build resilience and protect ourselves?
One of the most important strategies is setting boundaries. This means learning to say no to requests or commitments that will overwhelm you or drain your energy. It also means setting aside time for yourself, even if it's just for a few minutes each day, to do something you enjoy.
Boundaries can be difficult to set, especially in a work environment where there's pressure to always say yes. Do you have any tips for establishing healthy boundaries?
Start by identifying your priorities and values. What's most important to you? What are you willing to compromise on? And what are your non-negotiables? Once you have a clear understanding of your priorities, it becomes easier to say no to things that don't align with them.
So it's about being selective with our time and energy and making sure we're focusing on the things that truly matter to us.
Exactly. It's also important to communicate your boundaries clearly and assertively. Let people know what you're willing and not willing to do, and don't be afraid to say no, even if it feels uncomfortable at first.
That could be a challenge for many people, especially those who are used to putting others' needs before their own. What are some ways to practice assertiveness?
Start with small steps. Practice saying no to minor requests or offering alternatives. For example, if someone asks you to take on an extra task at work, you could say, "I'm not able to take on that project right now, but I can help you find someone who might be available."
So it's about finding a way to decline a request without being rude or dismissive.
Exactly. And remember, you're not obligated to explain yourself or apologize for setting boundaries. You have the right to protect your time and energy.
That's a powerful reminder. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's about taking care of ourselves so we can show up as our best selves for the things that matter most.
Precisely. And when you set boundaries, and you're not only protecting yourself from burnout, you're also modeling healthy behavior for others. You're showing them that it's okay to prioritize their well-being and to say no when they need to.
That's a great point. We can actually create a more positive and supportive environment for everyone by setting healthy boundaries. What other strategies can we use to prevent burnout?
Another important strategy is to cultivate supportive relationships. Having people you can confide in, who will listen without judgment and offer encouragement, can make a huge difference in how you cope with stress.
So it's not just about setting boundaries with others, it's also about building strong connections
Yeah.
with the people who support and uplift us.
Exactly. Spend time with people who make you feel good, who you can laugh with, and who you can be yourself around. And don't be afraid to reach out for help when you need it. There are people who care about you and want to support you.
That's an important reminder. We don't have to go through this alone. There are resources available, and there are people who understand what we're going through. Are there other things we can do to build resilience and prevent burnout?
Absolutely. Engaging in activities that bring you joy and fulfillment is essential for preventing burnout. This could be anything, from spending time in nature to pursuing a hobby to listening to music. The key is to find activities that help you relax, recharge, and reconnect with yourself.
So it's about making time for the things that make us feel alive
Yeah.
and energized.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be anything grand or time-consuming. Even small things, like taking a walk in the park or reading a good book, can have a positive impact on your well-being.
Those are all great suggestions. What about our work environment? Are there things we can do to prevent burnout in the workplace?
Absolutely. It's important to create a work environment that is supportive and encourages work-life balance. This might involve setting clear expectations for work hours, promoting flexible work arrangements, and encouraging employees to take breaks throughout the day.
So it's about creating a culture that values well-being and recognizes that people have lives outside of work.
Exactly. And it's also about providing employees with the resources and support they need to manage stress and prevent burnout. This might include access to mental health services, employee assistance programs, or training on stress management techniques.
It sounds like there are many things employers can do to create a more supportive and healthy work environment. But what about individuals? Are there things we can do on our own to manage stress and prevent burnout at work?
Absolutely. One important strategy is to prioritize your tasks and focus on the most important ones first. This can help you feel more in control of your workload and reduce feelings of overwhelm.
So it's about being strategic with our time and energy and not trying to do everything at once.
Exactly. And it's also important to take breaks throughout the day, to step away from your work and clear your head. Even a few minutes of stretching, walking, or simply closing your eyes and taking deep breaths can help you feel more refreshed and focused.
Those are great tips. What about delegation? Is it okay to ask for help when we're feeling overwhelmed?
Absolutely. Don't be afraid to delegate tasks to others, if possible. This can free up your time and energy to focus on the things you're best at.
That's a good reminder. We don't have to do everything ourselves. It's okay to ask for help. What other strategies can we use to manage stress and prevent burnout at work?
Another important strategy is to practice effective communication. This means being clear and assertive about your needs and expectations, and being willing to listen to others' perspectives.
So it's about creating an open and honest dialogue where everyone feels heard and respected.
Exactly. And it's also about being proactive in addressing potential conflicts or misunderstandings before they escalate into major problems.
Those are all great strategies for preventing burnout at work. But what if we're already feeling burnt out? What steps can we take to recover?
Recovering from burnout requires a multifaceted approach. It's important to address the underlying causes of stress, whether they're related to work, relationships, or personal challenges.
So we need to get to the root of the problem and make changes where necessary.
Exactly. And it's also crucial to prioritize self-care. This means getting enough sleep, eating a balanced diet, exercising regularly, and engaging in activities that bring you joy and relaxation.
It sounds like self-care is essential for both preventing
Yeah,
and recovering from burnout.
absolutely. When you're feeling burnt out, it's easy to neglect your own needs. But taking care of yourself is not a luxury, it's a necessity. It's about replenishing your energy and giving yourself the space and time to heal.
That's a powerful message. We often feel guilty for taking time for ourselves, but self-care is not selfish. It's essential for our well-being. What other steps can we take to recover from burnout?
Another important step is to reevaluate your priorities and make changes where necessary. Are you spending your time and energy on things that are truly important to you? Are there any commitments or obligations you can let go of?
So it's about simplifying our lives and focusing on what truly matters.
Exactly. And it's also about being kind to yourself and recognizing that recovery takes time. There will be ups and downs. And it's important to be patient with yourself and not expect to feel better overnight.
That's a good reminder. We often put so much pressure on ourselves to get over it quickly. But healing takes time.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that you're not alone. Many people experience burnout at some point in their lives. There are resources available, and there are people who understand what you're going through.
That's a comforting thought. It's helpful to know that we're not the only ones who struggle with this.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that burnout is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you've been pushing yourself too hard for too long. It's a sign that you need to make some changes.
That's a great perspective. Burnout is a signal that something needs to change. And it's an opportunity to reevaluate our priorities
Yeah.
and make choices that support our well-being.
Precisely. And by taking steps to manage stress, cultivate supportive relationships, and prioritize self-care, you can build resilience and prevent burnout from becoming a chronic problem in your life.
This has been an incredibly insightful conversation. I feel like I've learned so much about burnout and how to prevent it. But before we wrap up our deep dive into this important topic, let's take a moment to talk about the importance of seeking professional help when needed.
That's an essential point. While there are many things we can do on our own to manage stress and prevent burnout, sometimes professional help is necessary if you're feeling overwhelmed, if your symptoms are severe or persistent, or if you're having thoughts of harming yourself or others. It's important to reach out to a mental health professional.
So seeking professional help is a sign of strength, not weakness.
Absolutely. It takes courage to acknowledge that you need support, and seeking help is a positive step towards healing and recovery.
That's a great message to share with our listeners. We all need help sometimes, and there's no shame in reaching out for support. Do you have any final thoughts or advice for our listeners before we move on to the last part of our deep dive?
Yes. Remember that burnout is a common experience, but it doesn't have to define you. There are steps you can take to reclaim your energy, joy, and sense of purpose. Be kind to yourself, prioritize your well-being, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
That's a wonderful message to end this part of our deep dive on. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today. Now let's take a quick break before we move on to the final part of our episode, where we'll discuss some additional resources and tips for managing burnout. We've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into burnout, from recognizing the signs to exploring strategies for managing stress and building resilience. But before we wrap up, let's talk about some additional resources that can help you on your journey to prevent and recover from burnout.
There are many excellent resources available, online and in your community. Websites like the American Psychological Association and the Mayo Clinic offer valuable information on stress management, burnout, and mental health.
Those are great starting points for anyone looking for reliable information. What about books? Are there any books you recommend on this topic?
Yes. Several books offer helpful insights and practical strategies for dealing with burnout. Some popular titles include Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, and The Burnout Cure, an emotional survival guide for overwhelmed women by Jennifer Loudon.
I've heard good things about those books. It's helpful to have guidance from experts who have researched and written extensively on this topic. What about resources within our local communities?
Many community centers, libraries, and hospitals offer workshops, support groups, and individual counseling for stress management and mental health. You can also check with your employer to see if they have an employee assistance program that provides access to counseling and other resources.
It's encouraging to know that there are so many resources available, both online and within our communities. What advice would you give to someone who is feeling overwhelmed and doesn't know where to start?
Start by taking small steps. Choose 1 or 2 strategies that resonate with you, and start incorporating them into your daily routine. It could be as simple as committing to a 5-minute mindfulness practice each day, or setting aside 30 minutes for a relaxing activity you enjoy.
That's great advice. It's easy to feel paralyzed by the thought of making big changes, but even small steps can make a difference. What's the most important thing for our listeners to remember about burnout?
Burnout is a common experience, but it doesn't have to control your life. There are steps you can take to reclaim your energy, joy, and sense of purpose. Be kind to yourself, prioritize your well-being, and don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it.
Thank you for sharing your expertise with us today. I know I've learned a lot, and I hope our listeners have too.
It's been my pleasure. Remember, taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is just as important as taking care of your physical health. By incorporating stress management techniques, prioritizing self-care, and seeking support when needed, you can navigate the challenges of life with greater resilience and prevent burnout from taking hold.
And to our listeners, we encourage you to subscribe to QuickSpeak for more episodes on improving your English skills and your overall well-being. We also invite you to visit our website listed in the description for more resources on learning English and for vocabulary and exercises from today's episode.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep learning.